Welcome to the Dylan Experience. Today is episode 40, and I've got a special guest for you today. But before we get to the guest, make sure you like, subscribe, follow whatever thing you're listening on or watching on. Just go ahead and follow. But my guest today, really excited for this, is an expert in the treatment of addiction, mental health, and the founder of the National Institute for Holistic Addiction Studies. He is the author of multiple books, including Proven Holistic Treatment for Addiction and Chronic Relapse, How to Beat Your Addictions and Live a Quality Life. And his most recent book is the acclaimed The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up, and is the co-author of Molecular Neurobiology of Addiction Recovery, the 12 Steps Program, and Fellowship. Over 20 years ago, my guest founded the prestigious G&G Holistic Addiction Treatment Center in North Miami Beach, Florida, a 62-bed inpatient and outpatient JCAHO accredited addiction treatment facility. Wow. My guest today is John Giordano. John, how are you?
Well, I'm alive and above ground. I'm doing good.
Absolutely. You're looking good.
Hey, 75, not too bad.
Not bad at all. So John, tell me about you, right? You've got, obviously that's a lot of stuff to pack into a small bio. There's a lot more about you than just meets the eye and what that bio tells me. How did you get here?
Well, wherever here is, let me see how we got here.
Right.
Here I am. I was a kid from the South Bronx. Only went to the 9th grade. When I got into recovery, it was 37 years old. And I didn't think I had a problem. So my family did an intervention on me. So I want to tell you a little bit about my family. That's all in my book that I wrote. First of all, my father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman. My other uncles, they were like maybe bank robbers and all kinds of people used to ask me, "Hey, John, you ever watch The Sopranos?" I said, "No, I live it. Why do I want to watch it?" So, for instance, like when I was 8, my father went to jail. He got busted. 8 and a half, I got molested. Then I got molested by a girl when I was 9. I was in gangs when I was a kid. I did a lot of crazy stuff. And when I was 14 and a half, I joined karate. And the reason why I went to karate class, I wanted to beat up the karate teacher. I was in gangs. I thought he was a tough guy. I don't suggest you try to beat up a karate instructor. Not a good idea. So anyway, to cut it short, when I wanted to join the class because that's the only way you can get in there, but you had to be 15 at the time. This was 1962. And when it was really a martial art, not just a sport.
Right.
So I wound up joining the class, but it wound up being a jiu-jitsu class. So I went upstairs and I'm in the class. They're teaching how to roll out and how to fall. And then we sat in a circle and the little short round-faced guy was the teacher, right? And they go, "This is a joke," So he's talking to the class saying he needs a volunteer. So I raised my hand, of course, like an idiot. And I stand up, and he's teaching how to block a punch. So I said, "Okay, let me sneak punch this guy." So I tried to sneak punch as he was talking to the class. Well, that wasn't a good idea either. All I know is this. I winded from point A to point B, which was on the floor with a foot in my throat and a big round face smiling at me. Let me tell you something. It was the weirdest experience because I don't know how I got there. That's how fast it was.
Yep.
So I fell in love with the martial arts. I couldn't get enough of it. I left the gangs and I took all that energy that I had, all that anger and everything, and I put it into the martial arts and learned how to temper all that. Then I was in judo, I was in jiu-jitsu, and I was in karate also. I became a judo champion. I became a karate champion. I'm a grand master in the martial arts, which is a 10th degree black belt. I have about 200 students, black belts, that are karate champions. Even the blind karate, I taught people that were blind. And my blind guy became a 9th degree black belt, which is in the book, how it started. The guy was pretty wild. And I had to blindfold myself to teach him because his reference points and mine as a sighted person was completely different.
Yeah.
and he became a national karate kata champion. Those are forms. It's very difficult to do forms because you have angles, and you have the technique, how it's supposed to be done, and he was incredible. So, I did all that. I wound up in the Black Belt Hall of Fame. I just got into the Warriors Ultimate Warrior Hall of Fame, which was the coolest thing that they ever put me into. Here I am on a Zoom call with 50 grandmasters from around the world. It was like so cool. So I did all that, also. Then, I got into the treatment business, and that was quite a journey, to be honest with you. I went back to school. I got my GED. I went to school for addiction training. I had to get 300 hours and 6,000 supervised hours to get what is known as a CAP. That's a certified addiction professional. And I talk about all the resistance I had in the book, and I talk about all the things that I came up against, how I got betrayed by my doctor, how I got betrayed by my therapist, how I opened up. I was homeless when I started my journey because I got divorced, and I had to go. My friend had a hotel that he owned, and he put me in a room. It was an ALF, an adult living facility, and my kids used to come. We used to cry together, and it was kind of really tough. I felt like I was living on a different planet, being in recovery. They said you can't go with your friends anymore, and I said, who am I going to go with? It was just insane. When I went to treatment, my whole life turned around. And what happened, I had what is known as a spiritual awakening, I call it. And I wasn't very spiritual. I used to curse God, by the way. So I always tell people I'm a recovering Catholic, So what happened in treatment was I went there. Before I went upstairs, my family did an intervention on me. I just told you who my family was. And let me backtrack a little bit. My uncle, who threw my wedding when I was 20, the caterer insulted him in front of the family. Well, let me tell you how the family worked. This wedding was quite interesting. You had my father-in-law, my new father-in-law was a lawyer. My mother-in-law was a PTA girl, the head of the PTA, and they were Jewish. Now I'm Italian. So they wanted their daughter to marry a Jewish guy. Well, obviously I wasn't Jewish. So, but they fell in love with my family. I always laugh when I hear that, but that's the truth. Okay. So here I am, and my uncle decided that the guy insulted him in front of the family. On one side of the room was racketeers with guns and all this. On the other side was people with pens. It was like doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, whatever. And anyway, when he insulted my uncle, he killed him the next morning. So we had to leave town real quick. And we were at my grandmother's house. The detectives were coming over there to pick up my uncle, and we had to rush to the airport. And that's what we did with my new bride. There's a lot of stuff in this book, things that happened. I wrote it to give people the understanding of never give up on your life. And what happened was when I got into recovery, all right, in the treatment center, I was 3 weeks. That was about 3 weeks. I went in December 4th, and I wanted to go home for Christmas Eve. They told me no. I said, I want to be with my kids. I want to be with my family. It was full of shit. I don't want to be with anybody. My friends would come in, give me a Christmas card with Coke in it. I would do the Coke and probably disappear for 3 days. So they said no. So I got pissed off. Now I don't only get angry, I get rageful. All right. So I don't know if you can relate to that, but that's who I was. Anyway, I go in my room, I punch the door, I'm walking around. My suitcases were never empty. They always stayed packed because I was always leaving the treatment center. They always used to bring me back and talk me into staying. So I remember my therapist saying, "Hey, John, have you ever prayed on your knees?" I said, "Listen, man, I'm a recovering Catholic. That's all I got calluses on my knees." So I said, "What do you mean? God doesn't listen to me if I'm not on my knees?" I said, "How about if I'm in the closet? Will he hear me?" I was a real nasty Nasty dude, man. So, so anyway, he says, no, how about humility? So I said, yeah, okay. But anyway, it stuck in my head what he was saying to me. And I said, you know what? I was in so much pain and so much anger because I cleared up a little bit from the drugs. And I started to realize all the harm I did to everybody, including myself. So I went to get my knee down and I noticed I was a little strange. I couldn't get my knee down. And I was wondering, what, man, this is a joke. It was really difficult. I had to push my knee down and then I had to push my other knee down. Now, let me tell you, that freaked me out to begin with. Then I said, whoever's out there, God, whatever, energy, please, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do. Just take this pain away. It disappeared, man, like it never, ever was there. I couldn't believe it. So what did I do? I tried to get it back. Didn't work. And that was kind of like my first spiritual awakening and treatment. And things began to change. Now, just before we're supposed to leave the treatment center, they bring you to what is known as exiting. That's where you sit in a room with the therapists, the doctors, the nurses, and they go over how you're acting in treatment and progressing or not. And then they decide whether you need long-term treatment or not. So I didn't want to go long-term. So I get in the room with all of them, very intimidating. And they say, well, John's doing really good. And this doctor's saying it, the therapist is saying it, because I changed. And the head doctor looked at me and said, he's full of shit. Well, you could take a kid out of the South Bronx, but you can't take the South Bronx out of the kid. So I made a real ass out of myself, right? I said, you know what, you son of a bitch. I cursed at them. I did all kinds of things. And then I turned around and said to them, I could kill everybody in this room and you'll never be able to get out of here. And then one of the doctors said to me, John, we just want to help you. And I began to cry like a little 2-year-old. I ran out of the room. I felt like I was about an inch big running out with inside my shoes, and that's when I started to change. And I kept going. Then I wound up living in this, I got divorced and I wound up living in this one-room hotel. I had a bicycle somebody loaned me. Now, I used to make $15,000 a week dealing drugs and I used to do collection work for the smugglers. A lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that anymore because now I'm in recovery. So to cut it short, I opened up my first treatment center. The guy that owned the hotel, he lent me the money. He said, how much money do you need? I says, now what do I know about how much money I need? The only thing I know about treatment is I was in one. I said, $250,000. I said, I got this doctor who's famous, who wants to, and he knew who the doctor was, open up a treatment center. But I lied. I never talked to the doctor about that. Just because you get clean from drugs doesn't mean the behaviors change. So anyway, he says, if you got that doctor, I'll give you the money. So I went to the doctor. I said, hey, I got $250,000. Would you like to open up a treatment center? So he was always a comedian, the doctor. He was my doctor when I was in Mount Sinai. So he says, yeah, I was just thinking about that. And we laughed and we wound up opening up the treatment center. But what happened was after a while, they only had 3 years clean, the therapist and the doctor. They still had all the old behaviors lingering around. Not all of them, but the ones that caused me problems. So the doctor was a sex addict. I didn't know. So the therapist said, hey, your friend is stealing money from the treatment center. I said, what are you, crazy? He doesn't even have the account, because we couldn't make payroll and we were packed. So what wound up happening is my friend said, they're stealing. I said, no, they're in recovery. I'm a street kid. I became an idiot. Okay. So anyway, went into the doctor's office. He says, hey, doc, are you stealing? He put his head down. He said, yeah. I says, what are you doing? He was buying girls' apartments and paying for hookers. So then the therapist didn't like the fact that his client was his boss, right? So he went around. Anyway, they pulled the treatment out, that center out from under me. And they said if I didn't listen, they would just opened up a different corporation, and blah, 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 blah. So meanwhile, I lost the treatment center. They gave me an outpatient clinic, had 3 clients. I built that up. Meanwhile, they were making millions of dollars. I was making a salary. And they took away my ownership of that. They were supposed to give me a contract, and I was supposed to be making a salary plus percentage, which I never got. But I couldn't leave because I needed 6,000 hours. And where am I going to get that? You know, so I stayed on for about 3 or 4 years, and he kept trying to get rid of me, but he couldn't. And the bottom line is, eventually, I just got fed up, and I went back into my old style for a moment. And I walked into the office. I told him I was going to rearrange his face, and no doctor is going to fix it. I said, then I'm going to call up my uncle, and he's going to come down to blow your knees out. And he knew who my uncle was because my uncle had a drug problem. We put him in treatment, but nobody believed me when I told him what he did for a living. They come running into my office and go, John. I said, what happened? What did he do? What did he do? He's telling everybody all the people he killed. I said, I told you what he did for a living. I said, what's wrong with you people? Right? So he gave me a contract within an hour. I left. They gave me $80,000. And then I went to another treatment center that I opened up. My friend that gave me the original money said, I got another guy that wants to open up a treatment center. I said, how much, he says, how much do you need? I said, I gave the same price, $250,000. He said, okay. Yeah, I said, he wants the business plan. I don't know how to write a business plan. So he said, I'll do it for you. So he wrote the business plan for me. Then I went up there, and 2 minutes before the meeting, I forgot the business plan. Now, what the hell am I going to do? I can't go backwards. I got to go forwards. So I went forwards. I said, look, man, I forgot the business plan. He says, I don't care. He threw a napkin at me, and he says, write down why you need the money and what you need it for. So I did. So he gave me the money. We opened up another treatment center. A year later, he fired me. And I said, you can't fire me. I'm your partner. He said, did you read your contract? Of course I didn't. In the street, somebody, you go partners with somebody, they mess with you, punch them in the face or some other things, okay? Well, I can't do that anymore now.
Yeah.
So I got fired. And then my person was the clinical director, was my sponsor, right? And I says, come on, Pete, let's go. He says, I can't. I just bought a house because I gave him. He was making $29,000 a year. I gave him $50,000 a year, and he bought a house, so he can't leave. I said, he don't know how to run the program. We do. He said, no, I can't. So I sat on my car out in the parking lot and cried. Here I did it again to myself. Can't blame them. I was the idiot that didn't have a lawyer. So then I worked for an indigent program, 55-bed facility that had, guys that had HIV, and they had, psychiatric, mental health issues and substance abuse. But it was an old therapeutic community. In other words, they put the guy in the middle of the group. They beat the shit out of him. They break him down, and then they try to go back up. I said, what are you guys doing? I said, this is ridiculous. I don't know about anybody here in this treatment center. I didn't need any help breaking myself down. I beat myself up better than anybody could. But that was their style. I didn't agree with it. They had, they would give them chocolate cakes and sugars and candy bars and crap for lunch, as a dessert. And then the guys would act out a half hour later. And then we would put a sign around his neck and sit him on a bench. I said, what? We caused it, and look what you're doing. So one day, a meeting with all the clients, I told them what sugar did. And then I took the desserts away. Well, let me tell you something. Clients were fine with it, not the staff. They went berserk. So I quit. I said, that's it. I can't take this no more. And then I started I didn't want to open up a treatment center, but the girl I was with said, go ahead, open it up. I said, I don't want to do that. No, open it up. I said, I have $300 left because I had a spending addiction. So I spent all my money. So my friend owned a little building, 750 square feet. I says, listen, I want to rent it. I said, but I don't have much money. He says, how much money you got? I said, $300. He says, good, it's $300. So he says, open it up for about 3 months and then pay me. And that's what I did. Then I had my friend that was with me in the Better Way, which is the treatment center, the indigent treatment center. I asked him to come to be my partner. He says, "Hey, John, let me see your books." I said, "What books? I don't have any books." The guys paid me. I put it in my pocket. He says, "Well, how do you know when they pay you and how much they owe you?" "Oh, they'll pay me." So we said, "What are you, nuts? They're addicts. They ain't paying you." So, that's how I ran it. He was the business guy. He did the business part. Then we had his son, who was a genius with the internet. And after about 2 or 3 years, we had creditors chasing us. We would put people into treatment because they really needed it that had no money, even though we were starving to death. Sometimes we couldn't make payroll. And eventually, we started to build it up. And everybody used to laugh at me. They said, "Go to Giordano. He's going to give you a vitamin to cure you." They didn't understand the concept of treating people comprehensively or holistically. So today they ask me what vitamins I use. It's a whole different ballgame. So anyway, we went from that little building to another building, and that was a whole journey also. I don't want to tell the whole book. And then we had an angel that helped us and bought us 7 buildings, and we paid them interest, and we paid them every month. And we sold it in 2012 for 45 million. So if you were to tell me that early on, I would have punched you in the face again. And the bottom line is that my son almost died from this. So I made it my business to do the best I can to help God's kids. You see, I look at life like this. God, whatever God is to anybody out there, gave us the gift of life. It's what we do with that life is our gift back to God. And that's how I look at it. So I need to do the best I can. That's why I wrote this book. And let me just tell you a little thing here about it. It says, "The kid from the South Bronx who never gave up. Here is my roadmap for positive change. There is one thing in this world, one special lesson, one instant that has guided me through the turbulent waters of life. This infinite rule, which most people know but ignore, or simply do not follow their life lessons. That is, no matter what, no matter the circumstances, the obstacles, the people that get in our way, or things that slow us down, follow this one simple rule. Never give up on your dreams, never let go of your passions, and especially never give up on yourself or God of your understanding." And that's what I tell people. That's what I do. And life keeps going on.
It's a hell of a story, John. That's crazy.
I know it's crazy, but well, you know what makes it even crazier? I don't know if you watch television or not. Most people have stopped watching TV.
No.
Sandy from Below Deck, she's the captain of this show. She's a star of the show. I know it through a friend of mine. She read my book and she said, "This got to be a movie." And she's the producer. And then we have a script writer and Netflix and Peacock, and then we're asking her for content. And maybe, God willing, this will turn into a movie.
Well, I feel like you certainly deserve it. It would be pretty incredible. I'm curious. Now, I come from a background of suicide mostly, right? Like I've kind of built myself up not with the addiction mentality. My dad was addicted to alcohol for sure. He certainly had his situation with drugs, but I don't know much about that. He committed suicide when I was 6. But that mindset of being addicted, expands far beyond just drugs, right? Like
Absolutely.
I was absolutely, obviously your doctor at one point addicted to sex. I was addicted to suicide. I thought about it every day. I couldn't stop thinking about either my dad's suicide or my own suicide. Even though I was fervently against alcohol, drugs, tobacco, any of the things that got my father killed, I just stayed away from it, but I was still addicted. Now, I'm curious, when you talk about holistically working through addiction, you know, what does that look like? And you talked about comprehensively healing people with this. What does that look like? How do people actually start that process for you?
Okay, let me explain what I do also. I'm also, I'm going to laugh about this one. I'm a chaplain for the police department also.
Sure.
So remember the kid that didn't, I used to say F God in the meetings. So
Yeah.
an old timer came up to me once and said, John, how about G-O-D? I said, listen, asshole, I know how to spell. So the guy said, no, 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 no. Good orderly direction. I said, I can do that. So that was my God for about a year and a half. But getting back to the holistic approach, I learned one thing. Not only addicts don't believe a word you say, people in general don't believe anything you say. So you really need evidence. So I don't know how this happened. My life is so crazy. I'm on with 20 to 25 universities. I'm in 77 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. I work with neuroscientists, researchers, and clinicians, and psychiatrists and psychologists. They're on the team, the research team. We call addiction, and you're right on the money, RDS, reward deficiency syndrome. You see, we don't only get addicted to drugs and alcohol, we get addicted to sex, to porn, to internet, to food, to work, to gambling, anything that's out of balance. So people go, well, what do you mean? What is addiction? How do you know I'm addicted? I said, look, real simple stuff, guys. If you continue to do a substance or a behavior in spite of adverse consequences, maybe you need to take a look at that.
Yeah.
You see? And what I do is everything I do is evidence-based. We have papers on it. Okay. Hyperbaric medicine, that's oxygen under pressure. All right. It was used for the bends, which is, divers go down and they get nitric oxide in their blood, and, they have to stay in a chamber for a while, depending how deep they go. But it also heals wounds. They're also finding out that it heals TBI cases, traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the first person to use it for addiction, because who was going to argue with me that drugs and alcohol don't damage the brain? Nobody I know, because there's proof that it damages the cells in the brain.
Yeah.
All right. Oxygen under pressure becomes a medicine, and it heals the brain. Also, your gut, your microbiome, or your microbiota, it's called, or the flora in your gut, that it's called. Okay, these bacteria, when they get out of balance, cause autoimmune diseases, cause also dopamine and serotonin is manufactured in your gut. Most people don't know that, 90% of it. And then it goes up your vagus nerve and deposits it into your brain. If you don't have your gut in order, your brain isn't in order. Your gut is called the second brain. Some people call it the first brain. Okay? So you have to get that straightened out with probiotics, prebiotics, enzymes, and eating properly. Not eating McDonald's or Burger King or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay? Because what you put in your mouth builds of what your body becomes. You eat crap, you look like crap. Real simple stuff. Yeah. Okay? So, and then you have to do exercise. Now, what does exercise do? Well, real simple stuff, man. This is not rocket science. And I'll tell all your audience real simple. Please do not believe one word I tell you. Go look it up. Real simple. All right? I'm not here to shove anything down your throat. I'm here just to share with you information. If you're interested, go look this stuff up, man. Or if you want to stay miserable, enjoy yourself. What can I tell you? But I don't like that feeling anymore. And I also I wanted to commit suicide a lot of times.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't stand who I became. So you got eating disorders, people that they look to medicate their emotions through eating. Okay. Serious disease, because you got to eat. Mm-hmm. And it's all about control. It's all about a lot of different things. About a lot of them are molested, have been molested. It's a tough disease also. Then you got gambling. A lot of people, And it's not about winning or losing in gambling. It's all about the action.
Yeah.
All right. So we treated people with neurofeedback, biofeedback, hyperbaric medicine, massage, not to be fancy with the massage. Drugs are in your body on a cellular level. There's such a thing as lymphatic massage that drains you out of the drug. So saunas also. Okay. So these drugs are in your body, especially like pot is a fat soluble drug. It stays in your body. And also we look at neurofeedback, biofeedback, sound therapy and light therapy. Also helps with PTSD and depression. We go to aromatherapy, can also relax you. All right. What else? We do so many things. I'm dizzy already with all the things we do. I just learned something new that I'll share with you that actually blew me away. Now I got stenosis in my back, okay, which that means the narrowing of the part of the vertebrae that your nerves go through. Okay, and when it narrows, it pinches the nerve. You get pain.
Sure.
And when you get pain, your muscles cramp up,
Right.
and they throw your skeleton out of whack. You ever heard of the atlas?
No.
I know most people haven't. Neither did I. The atlas is the top bone in your neck that holds up your head. Atlas holds up the world.
Yep.
Well, that bone holds up our neck. That what goes through that bone is your nerves that go down your spine, all into your major organs, and your blood supply that goes from your inner carotid artery that also goes and feeds the rest of your body and feeds your brain. See, blood goes in your brain, all right, and then it comes out taking the toxins with it. If your atlas is this way, what happens is it impedes, okay, your nerves, and it also impedes your blood supply. So really strange. I never knew about this stuff. So we went to the doctor, my wife and I, and it was a bunch of people I knew that went that said all these things. But I'm from Missouri, even though I'm from New York. All right, you got to show me.
Mm-hmm.
So we went. It's the weirdest thing. He's a chiropractor. I said, well, listen, I went to chiropractor. Some are good. They want you to come back 92 times. He said, no, once. I said, what? He said, I'm not even going to touch it with my hands. Don't worry. And I said, now I'm in space. What is this guy saying? So he has this machine that he reinvented. Okay. So he gives you a test and see where you're at. And then he sends you to get x-rays, and you get x-rays of your neck. You come back, he looks at the x-rays the next morning, and you go, and he showed me that one leg was shorter than the other. And I was always in pain walking and limping and stuff. I have 2 hip replacements also. So he said, wait, lay on the table. He shows my wife my feet. One is almost an inch shorter than the other. He lays me down. He gets this machine. He calibrates it and puts this bar right, just barely touching my neck. All right. He presses a button. You hear it click. He says, you're done. I said, I'm done. So I said, okay. So he says, wait. He told my wife, come around to the end of the table. Look at his feet. They were even. And we both said, what? I got off the table. I had no more pain. And I still don't. It's been over a month. It was the freakiest thing I've ever done in my entire life. So I'm trying to help this guy to promote it because I'm not trying, I am. Okay. All kinds of people are going there. It's the wildest technique ever. But see, here's what he didn't even think of. And I don't even know if you did. You get addicts that hurt their knee, their back. They're not even addicts, they're regular people. They get an oxycodone, Oxycontin, they get hooked, right? They go to detox, they get rid of the drugs because they want to get off them. They come back out. What do they do about the pain?
Yeah.
Oh, stretch, go to yoga. They're still in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
They go back on the oxys and they go back and forth.
Tore my
This gets
ACL
rid of
3
the
times now.
Right. This gets rid of the pain.
Yeah.
And no kidding around. It really works. Sounds crazy, but so is going to the moon and going to Mars.
Right.
If you would have said this 50 years ago, they put you in a loony bin.
Yeah.
So this guy's name is Dr. Pierce in Clearwater. It's called Epic Clinics. I don't own anything. I don't make any money from it, guys. I'm just turning you on to something really cool. Yeah. Okay, so Epic Clinics, Dr. Pierce. Give it a shot. And that's what I do. That's the kind of work that I do.
Yeah. It's really it's really interesting to hear your story and hear where you've ended up, like that. um it's just a remarkable situation to see where you kind of grew up. And now, a lot of this, you look even 20 years ago, even kind of like before social media, like people would have looked at you and called you, would have called you a pussy for talking about some of this stuff, just
Right.
how, um because
Oh,
like,
by the way, they did.
what's that?
By the way, they did.
Yeah, I mean,
They
like,
thought, I thought it was a fruitcake.
yeah, and now, there's a massive cultural shift into understanding what trauma is, what, PTSD, what mental health really is, and where it comes from, and how it's, kind of pulled out of society. I guess what do you think about what that cultural shift has done for you, has done for society? Like, where do you think it's going? What do you
Okay,
think
here's the
is
problem.
what do you think is in the way still?
Well, let me tell you what the problem is. Insurance companies are the ones that run the treatment centers. That's so unfortunate. And they continue to do the same things over and over again, expecting different results. There's only a 5 to 8% recovery rate. I don't know if you know that.
I didn't.
And the model that they use is 70 years old. In 1950, they came up with the 28-day model. They had no experience, no anything, these guys. All right. They sent it to Hazelton, the idea that Hazelton liked it, then talked to insurance companies in supporting it. It doesn't work very well. First of all, you're using heroin or drugs or anything for 10, 20 years, 5 years. And you're lucky if you get 28 days, by the way. Sometimes it's only 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you go into treatment, right, or detox. It's not even detox, it's stabilization, they should call it. Detox means to detoxify, not throw other drugs on top of it. And then you end up getting hooked on Suboxone, another opioid, which is really hilarious because in the early 1900s, we had a morphine epidemic in this country. Guess what they used to try to get rid of it? You know? Probably
Suboxone?
not. No, Suboxone just got, they just put that together.
Yeah.
Heroin.
Makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right. Okay. So, so they used an opiate to get rid of an opiate. All right. That's what we're doing again.
Yeah.
All right. So look, it's okay for 5 or 6 days detox, but that's it. When you start to go, and then there's a small group, a very small group that maybe needs to stay on it. Those are the ones that are not compliant with anything, and they wind up dying, but not across the board. We keep treating addicts and alcoholics psychologically, not medically. Now I'm going to give you the answers. Depression and anxiety. We're not seeing where it comes from. We're treating the symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see some of the places it could come from. How about if you got a low thyroid? You think you can get depression and anxiety?
I would imagine so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You see, this is all medical stuff. I lecture all over the world. I've already lectured to about 125 countries. Scientists, researchers, and this is part of my lecture. Nobody argues with me because it's in their wheelhouse. If you have H. pylori infection or leaky gut syndrome, all right, it causes depression and anxiety. Guys, go look it up, okay? If you have low testosterone or high testosterone, you can have depression and anxiety. If you have hypoglycemic, you can have depression and anxiety. And alcoholics, you see that a lot because it's sugar what they're drinking with the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a closed head injury, guess what? You can have depression, anxiety, and behavioral problems. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Guess what? We're not looking at any of that.
Yeah.
We're not even looking at heavy metals. Heavy metals cause people to have interruption in the neurotransmission.
Sure.
So their brain's not working right, and it mimics attention deficit disorder, ADD or ADHD, and bipolar disorder. We're not looking at that either.
Yeah.
We keep treating people the same way. Look, therapy's important. Trauma. I'm a traumatologist. I work with guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. I work with people, police officers that have been in shootings, rape victims, all of that stuff, and people like yourself that are traumatized. Now, trauma, the regular trauma experts, a lot of them only look at acute trauma. I look at subacute. Subacute meaning your dog died. You get
Yeah,
traumatized from that.
absolutely.
Okay. You got
Trauma,
cheated in a relationship.
trauma's
You get traumatized.
trauma's a
Traumatized comes
relative
in many
idea.
different colors and flavors, right?
Yeah.
What it does is it shades the way you look at life. Like you had exposure to your dad,
Mm-hmm.
like I had exposure to my family. You look at life differently than other people.
Yep.
You look at people differently. You get trust issues. You get a lot of different things that happen. So, what the technique that I use? You ever heard of EMDR?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm an EMDR specialist, but I redeveloped it. I do NLP, neuro linguistic programming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hypnotherapist. All right. I'm also a holotropic breathing. I do so karate breathing. What I do is I put all those modalities together, and I put this technique together I call TRT, trauma release technique. Within 20 minutes to a half hour, I get rid of the trauma. Now, let me explain to you about therapy. Talk therapy works with the software of the brain.
Yep.
But just like a computer, try to erase something on your computer. Do you really think it's gone? No, it's in your hard drive still, correct?
Yep.
So is your trauma. What this technique does, it gets rid of the trauma in the hard drive. You see the trauma, but you're not emotionally connected to it anymore. And I have a lot of fun with it in a way, as I always tell people, because they don't believe shit anyway. I say to them, okay, sit in my chair. If it doesn't work, you can laugh at me. But let me forewarn you, it's been over 20 something years. Nobody has ever laughed yet. But give it a try. So after they're done, they go, what did you do to me? I said, what do you mean? He says, it doesn't bother me anymore. I see it, but it doesn't bother me. And he says, well, it's like a glass in between the problem and you. He says, yeah. I says, well, I told you. See, trauma is like a loop, and you keep on going over and over and over again, and it digs a deeper trench in your neural pathways. So what I do is I break that open, okay? And all those neurons and these engrams, I call them, okay, of memories that they spread out through the whole body, through the whole brain, and it breaks that up. And you're no longer emotionally attached to it now. Now, intellectually, you can look at it without the emotion. It's some wild stuff.
Does it? Now I'm curious, because I've followed the work of like Bessel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, Gabarate, like some of these guys that are trying to dig into the I guess, the non-pathogenic,
Non-traditional.
yeah, the non-traditional kind of treatments. They talk about neurofeedback. They talk about EMDR and other things.
Right.
I'm curious because EMDR has a very high rate of working with certain people, like veterans, like up to 90%. But there's always that CPTSD kind uh, of of population that has those more difficult long-term traumas. Have you done any work with that, and what kind of
Absolutely.
results
Now,
are you
let me
seeing?
tell you this. Let me tell you, remember, whenever a human is involved, there's rooms for mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Or not doing it as well. It's like anything else, they do the best they can. Some are really good, some are great, some are not so good.
Yeah.
Well, depends who you get. See, so I don't go to the trauma. Okay. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say a girl got raped. Okay. So I don't take her back to the rape in a sense. I take her back to the rape, but it's not about the rape. I said, what was the feelings that it elicited?
Right.
So I go to the feelings. Now it's a very interesting thing happens. Those feelings, okay, get hooked into other things that have happened in her life.
Sounds like
Okay.
somatic experiencing.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I do the technique, I grab all of those things, like it hooks into the darkness and starts pulling out, well, let's say fear, all those fears.
Yeah.
You see, and then what I do is a little bit different. Is for instance, I'll give you an example of how I do this. I give them, I talk to them about their experience. Okay, I get all that information, and then what we do is we sit down. I tell them, don't move any parts of your body. See, people have a tendency to move their fingers. They tighten up their lip. They hold their breath. They move their legs. If they do that with EMDR, it's weakening the technique because EMDR works as a distraction. But if they distracting, that weakens the distraction that you're trying to perform. So it kills the technique. Most therapists don't really realize that because you really got to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when people are in pain emotionally, they look to distract themselves, not just with eating and all this other stuff, but also with their hands, with their feet. Yeah. They go like this with their mouth. They tighten their lips. They hold their breath. Mm-hmm. When emotions are coming up, we do all kinds of physical things. So then I tell them, okay, so tell me where you were when this happened. What were you wearing? Where were you? Where were you standing? How was it? You got to bring them to that spot in time, okay? Then what I do with them is I say, what is the feelings that you feel? I said, okay, these feelings, where are they in your body? See, I put them in the body because, listen, your emotions are in your body, not in your head only. Mm-hmm. That's why people get back pain, neck pain when they're stressed out because the emotions housed there also.
Yeah.
So they tell me where it is. I say, okay, what shape does these feelings take? What color do they have? If they had a color, is there any movement? Any sounds, any smells, any taste? You see, your brain works with billions of pieces of information. When you see something, even as we're talking, there's a lot of stuff going on around you. The feeling of the headset on you, all kinds of different things that you just are not paying attention to, but your brain is.
Yep.
Okay? So we take those into consideration. So after they tell me the sound and the color, the temperature and all that, I'm bringing those emotions to the body, not just the mind. Okay? Real important that you do that. Then I do the technique on them, moving my hands in different patterns. Okay? I correct them if they move their head, or they're not supposed to move any part of the body but their eyes. I have them focus on those feelings. All right? Not on what happened, but on the feelings. And then I keep going, I keep going, I keep going. And before we even went into that, let me digress a little bit. I asked from 10 to 0, what is the strongest feeling you got with these emotions right now? They tell me, let's say it's a 7, I say increase it. I have them think about some of the stuff that causes that pain, that anguish, that fear, whatever. Okay, that shame, that guilt. They do that, and then I do it again. Okay, then when I'm done, all right, I bring them out. We talk about it. How's it feel? Where is it from 10 to 0? It's usually way less. What color is it now? What shape is it now? Okay, is there anything left? Some of it disappears. Some of it changes. And then I do it again. And I instill some things like positive things about stuff. It's in the past. You can't change it. You can't relive it. You can learn from your lessons. There are no failures. And I talk to them as I'm doing the technique. All right. Then I take them out of it. All right. Then we talk again, and then it's usually nothing. I say, okay, think about it. So then they look at me with this weird look, and they go, I can't. Oh, come on, keep trying. I can't. I said, okay. Now close your eyes. I'm going to do one more. Then I do what is known as an installation. I tell them, okay, think of something you were successful at. Anything. I don't care how small it is. Get that feeling. Tell me where you were. Get that emotion going. And then I do it again. All right, the technique, but nice and easy. Okay. Also, I'm sorry, I got to digress. I also, in the beginning, I had breathing. At the end of the cadence, I have them breathe, and then I have them hyperventilate. Because when you breathe, you oxygenate your brain and your body, right? Mm-hmm. So oxygen causes a chemical reaction in the brain and the body. So all kinds of things stop moving around. That helps with moving those thoughts out of the way. All right? So And then the last one, I make them breathe nice and slow. Savor it, just like a dinner that you had. Enjoy those feelings. And then I take them out of it. I said, okay, think about the bad thing that happened to you. They said, well, I can't. I said, what comes up? He says, holy shit, the good thing. I said, how you feel? He said, really good. I said, listen, I know the thought in your mind. Does this stay? Yes, it does, because they all think the same stuff. Okay, and if it doesn't, come back and we'll see if we can fix it. That's the technique.
Yes, I mean, sounds, obviously there's so many different modalities kind of mixed in there, but I think at the premise of it, it sounds a lot like somatic experiencing and kind of creating a connection to the emotion rather than obviously the trauma. It sounds really familiar to like Peter Levine's work, and that's a lot of what I do as well, is like I kind of walk that line of talk therapy into somatic experiencing when I can. I've never thought of incorporating my own EMDR or anything like that into it, but so it's very interesting. I can imagine it works in many capacities.
Well, you're treating the whole person.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You're not just treating the brain.
Yeah.
So that's some of the work I do.
Yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned how like addiction is mostly like right now people are treating the psychology and not the medical side of things. And I'm curious, like when you look at that, do you see a benefit to treating the psychology at all, or do you think it's
no. Treatment is like a mosaic. There are multiple pieces of it.
Mhm.
Okay, you need to treat the trauma. You need to treat the inner child. You need to do life skill training with them. You're rebuilding a human, so it's not just about what I'm trying to say. The group therapy is good. Individual therapy is powerful. So is group therapy.
Sure.
You have to get a rapport with your client. Don't just regurgitate information. Okay. No, I'm Italian, so I like to look at it as a pizza.
Sure.
Spirituality to me is the foundation of anything, right? Not religion. Spirituality. What I call spirituality is like learn to be kind instead of right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do your best not to lie, cheat, or steal. Right. Help people less fortunate than you.
Yeah.
Help yourself. Okay. Remain teachable.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So no, everything's important. I do inner child work. I do groups. I do individual. I do all the standard stuff, but I also encompass all the other things that cause the depression. Listen, we keep throwing pills at symptoms.
Right.
When I talk to psychiatrists, I say, look, see, I know there's hardly any research on these medications, SSRI,
Right.
and things, and long-term use. It was meant for short-term intervention. Now, some people have to be on it forever. Okay, there's a small class of people. All right,
Yeah.
not everybody's the same.
Yeah,
very small, exactly. Okay, and there's hardly any research on cross-pollination of these drugs.
Right.
That's why the only educated guess take 2 of these, take 3 of those. Oh, increase the dosage. Oh, lower the dose.
Yeah.
Look, I'll give you an example. Adderall, okay, for attention deficit disorder.
Yep.
All right. If you use tyrosine, okay, and especially if you get a micronutrient test to find out through your blood work what you are deficient in, and then repair that. Believe it or not, food and nutrients that are from a GPM lab, that's an independent laboratory, because some of these vitamins are baloney, okay? You'll be surprised how your body feels. And addicts, what do we eat? We eat frozen food, we eat sugars, we eat all kinds of garbage. Look, it's real simple. When you put the wrong kind of food in your body, your brain's not going to work right.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't believe me, I tell you what, you got a gasoline car? We're talking about fuel, right? Yep. Go put diesel in the gasoline car. Let me know you do.
Right. Oh yeah. Won't be getting far.
Right. Same thing.
You won't
put
won't be
garbage in your body,
you
you're
won't
not
be
going to
complaining
get far.
about gas prices anymore because you won't have a
Right.
working
Well, I
car.
got an electric car. I believe in electric. So
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely agree with you. You know, it's been a topic of discussion for quite some time about, you know, medications and the viability of long-term use, you know, and there's just been that's one of the things that I always come in contact with when I'm, you know, when I'm helping people and coaching people. It's they come to me and they're like, I'm taking this and I'm taking that. I've been taking this, I've taken that. I'm like, what do you, if you're coming to me, is it working? You know, and the answer is always no. Obviously you're not feeling any
we're,
better by taking most
we're
of these.
trained to think that way. The marketing, the
Yeah.
narrative that they put out. You know, you have to understand. People look. When I say holistic, comprehensive, I want to know if I have a headache. I want to know why I have a headache,
Right.
not just to take an aspirin.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the core that's driving my addiction? Okay, I don't want the symptoms of it. I know the symptoms. I want
Absolutely.
to know why I have this. You know, oh, it's your mother, it's your father. Bullshit. I got a body in the head.
Yeah.
So if the body doesn't count, let's just send the head to treatment. Leave the body home.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, you know, you can look at it psychologically and create the understanding of medically where it goes. Like your mom and dad can ultimately impact how your body responds to them, and then you can understand medically how they responded to them. I think a really good book on this is When the Body Says No, and discussing like autoimmune disorders being linked to the stress of never saying no, right?
Well, it's
Always
also
people please.
you got to include the gut because all
No,
the stress and everything is
absolutely.
in your gut. You
Absolutely.
see,
It's
look,
just, go ahead.
I got traumatized too, like you, as a kid. Okay, look, I got molested by guys. I got molested by a girl. My father was a heroin dealer. You know, my family was crazy. They're loving, but they were nuts. You know, when you pick guys, I never be like my family. I wind up being just like them. You know, and trying to commit suicide is the most selfish act you can do because the bottom line is you're not only killing yourself, you're killing a bunch of people that love you. And we don't realize that. How did you feel when your dad committed suicide? Really affected you.
Mhm.
So, you know, and look at the path you went on. You see, I don't believe there are any failures in life. I believe there's only lessons. Okay. So that was your lesson. Like my father was my lesson. Okay, look what you're doing. You're helping people. Okay, that was your lesson. Yeah, you went through all the shit that you go through. That's how you learn how to be who you are.
Mhm.
These are your lessons. So it's a real simple thing, okay, when you really look at it from that perspective. It's complicated when you go, yeah, but you don't understand. This is what happened. Listen, man, everybody has problems. If you don't have shit going on in your life, that means you're dead. Simple. That's how you deal with it, you know? And it's easy to say, hard to do.
Yeah.
That's why I wrote this book to show, look, I was only a kid from the ninth grade. I write books now. I lecture to scientists. Are you kidding me? You know, I made all that money.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for recovery, I wouldn't have had any of this. I would have been either dead or in jail.
You know, what's interesting is you said something that I discuss a lot, right? You said so suicide is one of the most selfish things you can do. And it was suicide that made me do what I do now
That's
because of
right.
my own, but because of my own, not my dad's, right?
Right.
In 2015, I almost killed myself. And what that taught me realistically was I disagree with you, right? Because essentially my choice was never about me, right? How other people looked at my dad was always about him being selfish. And yet when I looked at my own suicide, it was never about me. I never wanted to end my life because of me. I wanted to end my life because
No.
of my impact on other people. And
Yes,
so,
that's very common.
right. And so it's selfish, but it's also selfless, And there's always going to be that spectrum and that balance of understanding things. And when that is not centered in the understanding of both sides, right? That's where you get that extreme behavior of, I'm going to choose suicide. And if you don't, that's where I'm like, I don't know if you can just say it's medical, because that
No.
understanding
I'm
of,
not. No, I'm not saying it's just medical. You got me wrong. I'm saying that's a part of it. Okay, we're more than one. There's not only one piece to this. Look, suicide. Okay, I wanted to end my life because I was hurting everybody else, and I felt they were better off without me.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what you're saying. All right.
Yeah.
But I'm not looking at the other end where I'm being selfish. Why don't you go ask everybody if they would be happier without me? Okay. I think most of them would probably say no. Okay, to kill myself. So it's more than one thing, is what I'm trying to get across. Okay,
Certainly.
it's not just one thing. All right. Most people want to commit suicide is because they feel like they're not productive, they're hurting everybody, they disappointed everybody, they're not enough, and I don't want to be on this planet anymore. People lie, they don't trust anybody anymore. What am I doing here? I went out of here. There's a multiple reasons why people do it. So, and selfishness and self-centeredness is part of it. Not all, there's nothing that's all of anything. It's like saying it's all bad. No, it's not all of anything.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to explain to you. The medical piece we have to look at
Absolutely.
and correct that also. You can't just correct one part and not the other part, because they all interact with one another. And I know this to be true is because that's how we became one of the top treatment centers in the country.
Yeah.
We did outcome studies. We didn't do them. I got a third party to do it. We had a 70% recovery rate for a year, and that ain't bullshit. Okay, so people go, oh man, it's only a 5 to 8% recovery. Oh, that can't be. I said, okay, here's how we did it. We had a 3/4 way houses where addicts live. When they get out of treatment, okay, in a supervised environment, they do urines. They do group once a week too, and we did group also with aftercare. Now, a lot of people stayed in town because we had a lot of clients out of town after they left treatment. So we made a contract with the 3/4 way houses. This is what we expected them to do with the urines, with the reports back to us, how they were acting. Okay, then we had them in treatment. We did another urine on them and watched them how they participated in group. So that was one way. The second way is, okay, we called the family members up and get their take on things, even though they're angry, they're crazy, but they can start seeing changes. Then for the out-of-towners, what we did is call the family members also. Plus, MIT, Dr. Blum is one of the guys that was doing the outcome studies, and he got in touch with people from MIT. They had a software that detected when people were lying from the tonalities, inflections in their voice, and we would call them up on the phone, all right, and talk to them when we could get them, all right, and see if they were lying. Ask them how they're doing. Then we call up the family members or significant others and ask them how they were doing. So the bottom line is that most people don't realize how people do outcome studies. All they do is call the addict up and ask him how you doing. So I'm snorting coke. I'm going, yeah, I'm doing great, man. So
Yeah.
you got to look at it globally, and that's what we did. So that's how we did our outcome studies.
Sure.
Not us doing it, somebody else doing it. Otherwise, people say you fix it.
Yeah. Which is absolutely common in, today's world.
Absolutely.
So what's next? What are you working towards? Obviously the book's out and you're trying to sell that, but where are you going next after this?
Well, believe it or not, I most of the time I just give the book away. I don't really care about selling it so much. I want people to have it. Okay, it's only $10, so it's not a big deal. All right. I want them to have the book to teach them that to never give up on your life, never give up on anything, no matter how bad things get. And here's my life as an example.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. So that's why I wrote The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. And now we hopefully are making a movie out of it. And the bottom line, look, this never was about money with me. Money came. I don't even know how that shit happened. We just kept going forward one day at a time. And when people make a lot of money, they change. My partners didn't, and I definitely didn't. And I'm still giving back. I'm still helping people. And I got my own podcast. I don't make money from the podcast. Just like most podcasters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I don't make money from this. This is fun for me. I get to talk to cool people.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, right? Here I am. I do at least 2 of them a week, 3 of them a week.
Yep.
So it ain't about money bullshit. I got money. This is about really saving life, because they saved my life. People I didn't even know.
Yep.
Helped me.
Yep.
So this is what you're doing. You're doing God's work, man.
Yep.
You should be proud of yourself.
Absolutely.
And your dad, he taught you a lesson.
Yeah.
He taught you how to be who you are now.
Yeah. I wrote my own book last year. So
Cool.
I know.
What is it called?
Defy the Darkness. It's basically a self-help book, kind of linked into my narrative of what I've been through and how I've looked at it. I come from a sociology background, so it's kind of linked into the understanding of how we as people interact with each other, and it kind of
right.
defines the idea of kind of disconnection, and trying to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with other people, and kind of that interplay of what your mind sees and what is actually real. So
Well, perception is everything, then.
And one of my biggest quotes in there is, your perspective is your reality. That's
right.
It's there's science in it, as much as needs to be, but it's a lot of, my own perspective of how I've looked at all of this and how I've gotten to here. Right. I don't speak for no reason. I don't speak bullshit. I've been around the block a few times. I've been to Afghanistan twice. I've been around the world. I've seen the hardest shit man can see, and I've come back from it, and I'm in an incredible place right now, and quite happy and satisfied and loving life for the first time, in my 32 years of existence. I've built myself to get here, right? Just like you have, and that never say die mentality. That's what that book is about in my own way. It's my own narrative, like yours.
I'm very honored. Thanks for your service, number one. Yeah. And I'm very honored to be in this podcast with you, because I love being with people that have been through hell. Yeah. I came back, just maybe burnt a little bit, but they're okay.
In all the necessary ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, people basically want to be loved. They want to be respected.
Yeah.
They want to be understood. They want to be appreciated.
Yep.
It's just a normal human thing,
Yep.
And, I always tell people that are prejudiced, I said, if you open up every one, they're all got the same color inside.
Yeah.
So, come on, man, straighten up.
Yeah. I always kind of look at it from a war perspective, like when you're fighting a war, bullets don't determine who's right or wrong. They just determine who's dead, and it doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what kind you are, it doesn't matter.
No.
We're all fighting the same fight.
Discrimination with the bullets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
See, I also teach special forces,
Yep.
Self-defense, and I teach police departments, and besides doing trauma work with them.
Yep.
And there's some horrific stories. I'm sure you got a bunch of your own down there. But what most people don't know is that they give our soldiers a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
They give you uppers to stay up and downers to go to sleep.
Yeah. Caffeine. Caffeine is just the biggest drug that's out there. There were guys that were doing probably had 3-4 rippets.
10 or 15 cups.
Yeah, 3 or 4 rippets before a mission or during a mission. That's so much caffeine. Not to mention,
there was a lot of Adderall, a lot of uppers, and some downers. A lot of the guys became addicted over there to opioids. It's really bad.
Yeah,
all the stress that you're under. You never know when you're going to die.
Right.
You know, and you're walking around, you can't trust anybody, even the little kids.
Yeah. Well, and
You
when
know,
you
they blow
and
you
when
up.
you come back and go to the VA just shotgun blasts you depending on your
Yeah, I know.
symptoms.
I'm also working on a project with these guys about vets. We're putting together treatment centers across the country, dealing holistically with the vets, not just
Yeah.
you know, the standard care. We use everything. You see, you got to use it all. Whatever
Yeah.
works. I'm for whatever works. I'll put it
Right.
that way to you. If
Yeah.
it's working, I'm for it. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. Right.
You know,
I agree. I absolutely agree. That's what it's got to be. Well, John, this has been awesome. I'm also honored to have you on the podcast. You got a hell of a story, and I imagine I could talk to you for a couple hours just about what you've been through, and just hear about your family would just be. I would feel like I'm in The Sopranos right now. I've only watched like trailers of it, but I feel like I'm there. I feel like The Godfather or something. But listen, I'm gonna ask you the question, but I think I already know the answer to it, and then we'll close this out. But if there was one message you could leave the world, what would it be?
there are no failures, only lessons, and never give up.
Yeah, too easy, too easy. Well, folks, if you've listened this far, make sure you go find John. I'll leave his link in the description below so you can find him, connect with him, go find his books. John, thank you for coming. Thank you for jumping on. I'm sure we'll be in touch. But
And thank you for having me. What armed forces were you in?
I am still in
Marines?
the Army National Guard right now.
Army.
Yep.
Cool.
So
So you're still doing
14,
service, man.
14 years. 14 years. Yeah, just came back from sniper school last year. So got a kind of a new position. Definitely a challenge.
I was at Mossack. I was at Mossack with a couple of my special forces guys. Took me 2 weeks to get in. They had to clear me.
Yep.
I thought it was so cool. They got K-bar for the handles on the doors. You know, the knife that the Marines use.
Yep.
It was cool. I was talking about that technique I do, and they wanted me to do it, and I couldn't do it because I had a non-compete at the time. So it went by. So I'm trying to reopen that.
That'd be cool. That'd be really cool. Well, again, thank you very much. And for those of you who are still watching, thanks for watching the Dylan Experience.
Yeah,
See you next
thank
time.
you.
Yep. All right. Too
Cool.
easy.